Oh no, playground, it's fine.
That's okay. Is it okay for everyone? Yeah.
Great.
What are the social issue and policy and political agenda that the Green Party urgently want to tackle?
I think we have a toxic combination in this country of low wages and high bills. People are very worried about the cost of living. So we've been talking about the price of renting, for instance. Up to 50% of renters in this country are one paycheck away from losing their home. So that means if they lost their job, if they got ill or they came into some, unfortunate circumstance, they wouldn't be able to afford the rent anymore. That's totally unacceptable. The fact that we have over 170,000 children living homeless on the streets is unacceptable. Over 5 million people in London are on leasehold, which means they have to pay sometimes exorbitant service charges, which management companies can lift at any time. And so people are really worried about the cost of housing. One of the things I've been putting forward is for us to build lots more social housing, to end right to buy, which was something brought in by Margaret Thatcher, where private landlords bought off for social housing, and now up to £70 billion over the last 5 years have gone from the government in terms of welfare straight into the pockets of private landlords. We could have been using that money to build more social housing. And then there's our water bills. Up to 30% of a water bill sometimes goes on profit to water companies who are failing badly, where we've got leaky water and sewage being pumped into the water. So there's a whole range of policies that I want to do, but I'd say the core of it is to bring people's bills down and also lift people's wages to make sure that we're actually paying people things like a £15 minimum wage. In the 5th richest country in the world, where 50 of the wealthiest families own more wealth than the bottom 50% of the population. The fundamental thing I'm bringing to the table is that wealth inequality is destroying this country. We have people who are homeless, people who are struggling to put food on the table, or frankly people who are in work who just a few years ago were doing okay but now are financially precarious. The vast majority of people in this country are really struggling and can't take it anymore. They're exhausted. And so it doesn't surprise me that when the Green Party are coming along and are speaking for them, that they want to champion us.
So the Green Party is all about people and planet, about nature and communities. And at the moment, the reality is that people's lives are getting harder by the day. So the bills are going up and up and up. Even people who have several jobs are finding that they can't meet their basic overheads. And at the same time, we're kind of heading for planetary destruction. So what we're looking for are policies that serve communities and serve nature. So, for example, we would like to have insulation across everyone's homes, to sort of mass scale insulation, so that we bring people's bills down because we keep their homes warm. We've got some of the leakiest homes in Europe at the moment. So this is actually a really important policy for us, and at the same time obviously that helps reduce our carbon emissions. So we want to end rip-off Britain basically, because we're a nation where the very few people who are the richest, so the top 50 families, have as much wealth as the bottom 50% of the population. So the inequality in this country is dramatic. And so we would want to bring in a wealth tax so that people who are extremely wealthy are contributing more to society. Only 1%, 2% if you've got over $1 billion, so not an amount that would make a difference to your standard of living. But it would actually generate a lot of revenue.
Even though Green Party has a long history, but people like you and Jack came on board. More and more people are interested in the Green Party and want to support the Green Party. I mean, why? I mean, what are the changes?
Well, some changes are external, some changes are internal, but the policies come from the membership. The membership has always been committed to people and planet. In fact, we used to be called the People's Party, then we were called the Ecology Party, now we're called the Green Party, and really we're about all of those things. What's different is the way it's communicated, and I think what Zack has done in particular is made it more obvious to people that it's about daily life and making your daily struggle easy, because I think it used to be seen as very idealist, and it's almost a kind of luxury politics. Like, sure, once I've fed my children, once I've paid my rent, once I can meet this bill for my water, then maybe I'll think about climate change. And it's like, actually no, it's so much more integrated than that. The reason our bills are going up is often the same reason that's destroying the planet. And so we're saying, no, we're actually for ordinary people to make your life easier, and that's really good for the planet. So it's just a different way of communicating it. But there are other things going on. One of them, of course, is that our two major parties are kind of collapsing. So the Conservative Party has already pretty much collapsed. The Labour Party are absolutely betraying their own values. They were going to cut benefits to disabled people. They've continued austerity, so cuts to public services, which is totally the opposite. They're not taxing the very wealthy. They're also, propping up, actually sustaining the actions of Netanyahu in the Israeli state, which is a genocide in Gaza that people are really upset about. We also have the rise of the far right. And I think that is genuinely been happening at such a rate, and the narrative has been shifting to the right so dramatically. Like narratives of hate for migrants, scapegoating immigrant communities for problems that are actually to do with the super rich not getting taxed enough. They're to do with governments not funding local authorities enough. They're to do with what's wrong with our economic and taxation system. They're not the fault of migrants. And yet what's happened is this narrative of pointing the finger and blaming migrants. And that, I think, has led to that's because of and leads to more of the rise of the far right. And I think in this last few months, the Green Party's been able to say, we get that you're angry, we get that the system doesn't work, but don't go hating, that isn't the answer. The answer is in standing together and demanding change of our government, and we're standing together for hope. And I think we've just opened up a whole new opportunity for people. So people are really seeing it as Greens or reform at the moment.
Living lives is same page as the environmental issue.
We've always been about social justice and economic justice and environmental justice. You can't really have one without the other. It's like the same system. Say the privatisation of our water companies has led to the horrendous pollution of our rivers and seas with raw sewage going into them all the time. It's also led to people making a profit somewhere else and our bills going up. So making a small amount of people loads and loads of money, whereas what we're saying is that's what damages the planet. We need it to work for everybody and for nature, but it does need a complete system change to solve the problems. You can't solve the environmental problems and stick with the system that we've got at the moment. But I think people are getting excited for all the reasons I've said, really. They're getting excited that we're there as a movement for hope instead of hate, that there is a different way of doing things, that there are politicians who just talk common sense, who understand people's struggles, who have sensible solutions, practical solutions to those problems. It's like there's a radical vision, but there's very pragmatic policies, and I think people trust that.